sending eggplant emojis. They were sending back peach emojis. You know what we're talking about.
This is not really the way I wanted to start off 2021, I guess that, I've made it my job that whenever someone with some sort of social influence is grooming minors, I have to talk about it. Because this is the third time. So, third time's a charm. 3 times makes it a pattern. Before I begin talking about the situation that I will be covering today, I just want to give you some content warnings. I'm going to be talking a lot about grooming and predatory behavior and manipulation. There will be brief mentions of pedophilia. So if you are very sensitive to those topics and you know yourself the best, if you think that it's not going to be healthy for you to watch this video, then totally click off. That's completely fine. Take care of yourself. I'm going to include some resources in the description below if you need to talk with anyone, if you or yourself or someone who is in a manipulative relationship or who has been a victim to grooming in the past or currently. I'm just going to leave some resources that you can look into if you need it. So with that out of the way, today's situation is Callmecarson YT. Gonna tell you, I didn't know much about this dude. I am not really into the Minecraft YouTube scene. I didn't even know he was a Minecraft YouTuber. I thought his only personality trait was being a friend of Eddie Burback, because that's the only person, friend of his that I know. And he was trending, and I was like, okay, maybe he got into some silly shenanigans on Twitter. No. So around, when I saw it, it was 1 a.m. I'm filming this video at 5 a.m. Past 4 hours have been crazy. But anyways, at 1 a.m. when I saw it, Carson was trending on Twitter. And this was a few hours after Keemstar on his channel Drama Alert, a little channel you may have never heard of. Keemstar posted a video talking with a couple of Carson's close friends about some allegations against Carson that he had been having sexual conversations and sexual exchanges with minors. So a little timeline really quick. Keemstar's video, Carson trending. In between that, one of the people who was a victim to grooming from Carson posted a thread containing screenshots and recordings of Discord chats between herself and Carson. Then there was a couple other screenshots from the Carson's Discord server where I'll include a screenshot of the tweet here that Joko did, talking about how Carson admitted to it. And as far as I know, as I'm filming this at 5 a.m., there has been no comment from Carson. If that changes while I'm editing, I'll insert it here. So that's a very brief general zip zap zop overview of the situation, but let's get a little bit more into it than that. First of all, let me just go ahead and sum up Keemstar's video for you, because if you're like me, you want to stay as far away from Keemstar as physically possible. And I am willing to take one for the team and unfortunately give Keemstar a view so that you guys don't have to. So he opens up talking about how there have been rumors of Carson exchanging inappropriate photos and messages with underage fans. He says eggplant emojis and peaches. It's sexting. He censors that, so I guess you can get demonetized for saying sexting. But I'm not even at the point where I can get monetized, so I don't give a fuck about that. We're gonna be blunt. They were sexting. Then after that, he introduces 2 members of the Lunch Club, Noah or Hugbox and Travis, but Travis with an E. There's not a Travis with an I in the lunchbox. I just felt necessary to Travis with an E, in case you look him up. And if you're like me and did not know what the Lunch Club was, did I call it the Lunchbox Club? Because of the Lunch Club. If you didn't know who they were, they're like a ripoff O2L, but for Minecraft gamers / miscellaneous gamers / white boys who are nerds, I think. So they were introduced, and then Noah said that Carson had told members of the Lunch Club what had happened between him and the underage girls in March or so when they were all in LA together. Then Keem asks what they've done about it. Noah says that he was afraid of repercussions, so he hadn't done anything, but he had been doing some subtweets trying to hint at what he was thinking. Both Noah and Travis said that they don't know who the girls involved in the situation were, and they also don't know if Carson is still engaging in this sort of behavior. Noah says that Carson was supposed to take a step back, that he said they would take a step back, but he doesn't believe that Carson has. Travis says that he hasn't really talked to Carson in quite a long time. Then Keemstar says that this kind of situation happens often in the Minecraft community, which is something that I will briefly touch on later, because like this nerdy dude suddenly gets all this attention. And then Keem goes on to ask, do you think Carson is into underage children, or does it just so happen that the people he's getting attention from are these young girls? Noah says that he doesn't want to speculate, but he believes that it's a matter of opportunity and a power rather than age. Then Keem briefly alludes to some drama with a YouTuber named Katarina, which was Carson's ex-girlfriend. It's not relevant. Then Keem asks what the other lunch club members think of the situation. Noah and Travis said that they don't want to, talk on the other's behalf, but they believe that the others want to say something about the situation. Then Noah and Travis say that this is the reason that the lunch club broke up. They kept pushing away the issue because they didn't want to deal with it, but ultimately it led to them disbanding and they wanted to say something. And then Keem thanks them for coming out about this topic, and the video ends. At the time of Keemstar making this video, there hadn't been any victims who had come forward as evidence of conversations between Carson and themselves. But a couple hours after the video, Twitter user Miniborb or Sam came up with a thread, including a bunch of screenshots from Discord and video recordings of her conversations with Carson on Discord. Sam had jokingly tweeted Carson, haha, be my boyfriend, and then he immediately went to DM her. From there, a lot of sexually explicit messages and photos were exchanged, and at the time she was 17 and Carson was 19. So there are multiple facets of this situation that I would like to discuss, those being the age difference between them, the power dynamics between them, and then just the overall implications of this situation. So the age difference between them has been a large point of contention in the replies to Sam's Twitter thread. There have been a couple of people saying Carson is a pedophile, but there have been a lot of people saying that a 2-year age difference is inconsequential. I personally don't agree with either of those sides. My working definition of pedophile is someone who is sexually attracted to prepubescent children, so I don't think that would fit the situation. However, I don't think the 2-year age difference is inconsequential at all. I think it's of great importance to the situation. A 2-year age difference in adulthood is usually pretty much generally not that big of a deal. However, the 17 and 19 are just very different than, adult ages. Although they're both in the upper echelon of teenage dumb, they are still very different ages to be at. Because 19 is barely an adult, 17 is barely not. It's you have a 62-year-old and a 64-year-old, it's not that big of a difference. But with a 17-year-old and a 19-year-old, a 17-year-old is still in high school, possibly a junior or applying to colleges and going to graduate. A 19-year-old is going to be maybe in university or in trade school or having a job or trying to become independent, which are two very different things. This is the area, the time of life where, just because of how society is set up, a lot of major shifts in life and major life changes are occurring. If we are talking about the legal side of it, a lot of people in the replies, a lot of people are talking about the Romeo and Juliet laws. The Romeo and Juliet laws are defined as provisions of statutory laws in some states that pertain to individuals under the age of consent who engage in sexual intercourse where there is a minor age difference. So pretty much these laws are meant to address sex between young adults. They do not, as you can see in the definition, they are in some states, not all states. So for example, in Texas, if a 14-year-old and a 17-year-old have sex, it's legally fine, but in Delaware, that shit would not fly. The age differences allowed between the states vary from 0 years to 5 years. So yes, in some states you could argue that this is legal, even though I believe when it comes to photographs, it falls under a different set of rules because it could be considered child pornography. But apparently we're ignoring that, so we're just going, talking about these Romeo and Juliet laws, which is what people always go to in these situations, which is kind of so yeah, we'll pretend that it's legal. But if we're talking morals, immorally, historically in the US, legality and morality have not really lined up. You can think of your own examples. I'm definitely thinking of mine. There's a lot to choose from. And I would just like to talk about it from the perspective of a 19-year-old. Like, I have a fake Tinder that I use to just like, it's an empty profile. I just lurk to see who from my high school has a Tinder because I think it's fun. But I have it set to 19 to 20, only because I can't have it set to 19 to 19. And if someone slips in there that is under the age of 19, I immediately swipe left because I feel physically disgusted at the thought of having to look at a 17-year-old. Full stop. I mean, I'm kidding, it's fun to like look at a 17-year-old, but if you planted the idea of being romantically or sexually engaged with a 17-year-old, a junior or a senior in high school, that's just fucking gross. Like, it is not attractive at all to hear someone talk about high school. I want to forget high school. Like, if I'm talking to someone and they're like, oh man, this pre-cal homework's hard. My college application's asking me for my favorite book. Maybe I'll talk about 1984 by George Orwell. Stop talking to me. We're breaking up. We were never dating. That's the best situation for both of us here. And like, quickly turning to the messages between Carson and Sam, there was a point where Sam literally says, sorry, I was in school. Now, let's talk about what could be wrong with this situation. Is it this? No. What about this? Maybe. I know. What about this? Good job! It's a sign of grooming and predatory behavior. Like, if someone says, sorry, I was in school, and you are not also in school, something is wrong about that situation. I would say it's, I don't know, a little bit fucked up. Maybe a little bit fucked up. And although this might seem like a slight different in, position in life to some people, it can create a very real power dynamic that creates an unhealthy relationship. There are a lot of things that can lead to a power dynamic. It could be difference in position, like in a job, like your boss and employee, or it could be difference in knowledge, like you know a lot about Minecraft YouTubers and I don't, which you wouldn't think would create a power dynamic. But if you clearly have not been on Twitter, if that's what you think, could be a difference in health, in a financial situation, or in age, like this. And okay, let's pose the argument that the difference between the 17 and 19 is a very minor power dynamic. Let's just say that for the situation. Power dynamics are not, singular. They are not existing in a vacuum. There's a lot of factors that go into power dynamics. And in this case, the social influence of Carson is what most, majorly impacts the power that he holds over his victim. Sam was a fan of Carson. And when you're a fan of someone, like in this Twitter way, you often have this trust for them already, and you have this like adoration of them. So Carson was able to manipulate this pre-existing trust and this adoration in order to get what he wanted, which in this case was sexual gratification. Someone could argue that, I haven't seen this argument, but someone could argue that he didn't realize what he was doing. However, just because you don't realize you're doing something does not mean you're not doing it. Like, it doesn't PEMDAS out that way. Like, if I close my eyes, I go in public and just start walking and punching the air, and then suddenly I feel my fist collide with something, but I'm like, I don't know what it is, I'm gonna keep doing it, boom, boom, boom. Suddenly I'm arrested. They tell me, you just punched an 84-year-old woman, she died. Well, coppers, I didn't know that I punched an 84-year-old woman. Henceforth, I do declare that it doesn't matter. Oh, you're right, scot-free you go. No. I killed an 84-year-old woman, even though I didn't know I did, I still did it. So that's a weird comparison, but take that as you will. What I'm trying to say is, even if he didn't realize, he still did it. However, you can't even argue that he didn't realize because he literally admitted to it in his messages with Sam. He would like talk about how it was wrong. He was like, oh, we shouldn't be messaging. But then he was like, go ahead and like message me when you're horny so we can exchange some eggplants and peaches. He's like, I shouldn't be asking you for nudes because you're 17, but it makes my wee-wee tickle. Like, no, that's fun. It's gross. It's gross. Just the fact that he's doing that. Very manipulative in and of itself, I would say. Very, predatory grooming behavior going on here. But there's a lot of people who say that this is not grooming. And to those people, I've got a lot to say. Grooming, though it is typically associated with like a relationship between a child and an adult, is not exclusive to child-adult relationships. There's an article I found called Young People, Peer-to-Peer Grooming and Sexual Offending, Understanding and Responding to Harmful Sexual Behavior Within a Social Media Society, that defines grooming as the use of a variety of manipulative and controlling techniques with a vulnerable subject in a range of interpersonal and social settings in order to establish trust or normalize sexually harmful behavior with the overall aim of facilitating exploitation and prohibiting exposure. The definition of grooming is broadening because the act of grooming is broadening, which has been catalyzed by our social media society. So taking this definition into account, young adults can be vulnerable too. It's not only children that are vulnerable to grooming. Grooming is also not necessarily just sexual, although it commonly is. It can also be financial or even political when someone is trying to radicalize you, to align with their own beliefs. But with this definition in mind, I would say Carson was clearly abusing this pre-existing trust that Sam had for him in order to get what he wanted. Another argument about the whole grooming thing is that some people say Sam was at fault. They said that she was leading him on, or like, why didn't you just stop talking to him? We look back on the definition again, there's a whole thing about vulnerability and trust. If someone that you trusted and looked up to was taking time out of their day to talk to you, it would most likely be difficult for you to just give that up and stop talking with them, because you might not realize how wrong the conversation is, and if you do, you might not want to acknowledge it because you don't want to change the perception of this person. Like, there was one time on actual Tinder, which was a phase of my life, I matched with a 24-year-old dude, and he said something about how he was an English teacher and he taught students my age, and when that happened, I was like, I think I'm gonna take a step back from this conversation. And then he was like, I don't think I will. But if you put me in that situation with someone I don't know, insert famous YouTuber here that I was a big fan of, and if I was 17, my response would have been completely different. I would have 100% kept engaging with him because I would have thought, it's so special that they're taking time out of their day to talk to me. So I want to give them what they want. I want to talk to them and I want to make them happy, because they're making me happy. And it's not until later reflecting on the situation that you would probably realize what was going on was really manipulative and predatory. There's a lot more that I could say about the issue in regards to things like arguments about emotional maturity or talking about just the validity of the receipts themselves. But I think right now we're just gonna go narrow it down to a conclusion. So, what does all of this mean? Well, we can already see that there's a growing trend of harmful sexual behavior. This is not new. It's been happening for the past however many years. This just in the past span of a year, I've made 3 videos now on it, which is becoming a trend on my channel, reflective of the trend in real life, unfortunately. And as Keemstar mentioned in his video, this is not something new to the Minecraft community either. Carson's name was trending alongside this guy named Minilad, who was someone else who had sexual interactions with minors. The age difference was a lot. There was a lot going on there, and then there was also this dude named Lion Maker, which that's a whole thing. I watched an hour-and-a-half video on it, which I will leave in the link in the description because that was a watch. So this trend of harmful sexual behavior is completely catalyzed by social media and just the existence of the internet. As stated in the article I mentioned earlier, news reports, stories from frontline practitioners, a body of research on the topic, and statistics on prevalence provide ample evidence that young people engage in sexual abuse and exploitation with enough frequency to make these behaviors a problem that both society and service professions should acknowledge and address. This behavior is growing, and it's not happening in one form. It happens in many different forms, whether that be a child and an adult, or with peer-to-peer from young adult to young adult. This manipulation also does not look the same. It can be loud and violent, or it can be quiet and subdued. Whatever form it might take, the trauma that is caused by grooming is real invalid either way. To any victims of grooming who might be watching, whether that be from Carson or another YouTuber or just any time in your life, please know that your pain is valid and it sucks. It sucks so bad to be manipulated from someone online, whether that be a stranger or someone that you trust. It happens to so many of us. I know it's happened to me. Just know there are others to support you, and we love you and we want to listen to you, and there are resources that you and others can get help from. It's a traumatic experience, but it is one you can move past from. And we need to hold creators accountable if they engage in behavior like this, whether it's sexual predation or just predatory manipulative behavior in general. But remember, when we are holding them accountable, if they do apologize and try to grow, do not accept an apology on behalf of everyone. If there is someone out there who has been very personally affected by the behavior of this creator, they have the right to not give their forgiveness, and that's completely okay. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, I guess that's how we're gonna start 2021. Woo! I hope you enjoyed this video. It was, quickly put together. I did research, which was good, because this is a topic I find very important to me. I wouldn't make 3 videos on it if it wasn't. And I just hope everyone is able to recognize, that danger that this poses to, just kind of everyone on the internet and everyone in real life, everyone in general. If you like this video, consider subscribing for more. Hopefully not more of this kind. It'd be really cool if it wasn't more of this kind. But who knows? Life throws at you what it throws at you. If you have any resources or articles or anything that you've found very enlightening when it comes to this topic, go ahead and leave it in the comments. I'm gonna leave some of the articles that I found in the description because some of them I haven't read yet, but I'm going to. I encourage you to read and do your own research, as I always do. And yeah, think I'm gonna go get some sleep now, or edit this. Who knows? Bye.